I'm 29 years old, still living in Pittston, seeking a second term on county council, and the most I wanted to prove the last 4 years is that I care about the county residents, care about the taxpayers, whether it be helping those in recovery get back on their feet, well, it's like a job reference kind of thing, or just helping them, talk about their struggles out in the open to reduce stigma. I helped organize a group of young people to shop for the elderly during COVID so they didn't have to leave their homes, or the vaccine ride program that I helped develop through County Cares Commission, where we had over 100 volunteers and gave 80 rides to the elderly and blind to get their COVID vaccines. I just wanted to prove that I care and use my platform for a positive influence on the county. And on the financial side of it, the county has now an improved credit rating. We're creating jobs through economic development, and we're paying down county debt at the same time. While I think we raised taxes once in the 4 years I've been there. So, bottom line is, improve financial responsibility and proving that I care to the taxpayers.
The County Cares Commission is something that you started. I believe you're the chairman of it.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your role and kind of what some of those goals you have now moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first 2 years on council, I kind of did my own thing where I went out, I hosted 4 public forums throughout the county where I connected law enforcement, those in recovery, and the agencies that help those in recovery, and just help bridge the gap between what's going on out there and how each agency, law enforcement, and a resident can do their part. I also co-directed a substance use awareness documentary to just help reduce stigma, and just wanted to be a lifeline for those in recovery. And I had a couple come to meetings to share their story to help reduce stigma. I went on PA Live to talk about the importance of mental health and talking about reducing stigma. And then 2 years into council, I realized, there's more that we can be doing. I don't have to rely on just myself to get this done. So we formed the County Cares Commission with the support of council. It is 6 residents and 3 members of council. And the goal is really to connect the most vulnerable to the resources we have out there. We hosted a resource day in Kirby Park where we had over 30 agencies come. We had a food and clothing drive for the homeless, and about 200 people showed up to just come see what help was out there and to collect food and clothing.
Matt, a lot of people have said that the county charter needs to be amended, that there are some problems with the way things are going here. Do you have any thoughts on that subject, and if so, how would you go about amending it?
Yeah, I think we've seen, especially in the last 2 years, that it conflicts a lot with state law. So I do think we do have to amend some of it, but it's up to council to put that on the ballot for consideration so that the public can vote on it. I know I said 4 years ago when I ran that council might be too large, and I still have those opinions that maybe there's too many people on council. But there's bigger issues than that in the charter that need to be addressed. But it needs to correlate more with state law so we don't have to continuously file lawsuits and find out what is right between state and county charter.
Speaking of lawsuits, the council has just appealed as of yesterday the DA election ruling, I guess lack of ruling maybe, from the visiting judge. I know you didn't vote. Originally, you did not vote to support that. At this point in time, do you support going forward with it?
No, I don't. I think it should be on the DA and his legal team to pay the fees and file the injunction himself.
Some people have told me there's a chance that you might be the chairman of council next year. Is that something to which you aspire? And if so, do you have any, is there anyone to whom you would emulate? Would it be Tim or anybody else?
Well, I think Tim's done a fine job. It's just, I think the county needs to move forward, and I appreciate you hearing that. People have asked me, and if the public and the council support me doing it, I would do it. I would say that I work outside of council pretty hard. I have a full-time job where I put in at least 60 hours a week, and adding council chair to that would be a lot. There are more people on council who are retired and have more time, but I would take on the opportunity and help lead the county any way that I need to, if I'm honored to win.
The council is going to be responsible for selecting a new manager next year. What are you looking for in a candidate for county manager?
Yeah, I think the most important is the financial management as well as the employee management. I'm not ashamed to say that I think Dave Pedry did a great job in his tenure. Financially, we're on a great trajectory forward. We had some personnel issues that were addressed, and I think council sometimes oversteps into the executive branch when it comes to personnel. Our job is to manage the manager, and the manager's job is to manage the rest of the county. I supported Romilda getting added to acting county manager, and I think she's done a good job communicating to council and relieving some personnel of their duties based on some information that was obtained. But I'm looking for someone who is interested in the county as a whole, wants to be a part of the county's future, and most importantly, focus on the financial aspects of it. And one more thing I would add is that we're having a hard time finding people. I think the rest of the world is as well. But there's a lot of openings in children and youth and probation that we just need to fill. And if that means raising salaries to obtain better personnel, then we need to look into that because, like the rest of the world, we need workers.
What have you thought of the process so far? It seems obviously there was issues getting people to fill the search committee. It seems like maybe now, early on when Pedry had resigned, that maybe by now we'd be a lot further along in this process. What do you think of how that's kind of rolled along?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely taking a little bit of time, and I think some people on council were pushing for it to happen a little bit sooner because their tenure might be up and they wanted to say who's going to be the next county manager, which makes sense. They put a lot of time and work into it over their last, 10 years, I think it is. But I don't think it's something we need to rush into. There's a new council that's going to be coming in November and sworn in early January, and I think it's their right to pick the next county manager.
What do you think about what happened with children and youth and how apparently nobody seemed to be aware how one department manager was able to, according to the Attorney General anyway, do all this, and yet it seemed that none of her supervisors or no one on council was aware of what was going on? Yeah,
it's a pretty large disgrace to the county, especially with our prior history with involving children. And now we have to obviously believe that if someone said they didn't know about it, then they didn't know about it until proven guilty. But I really try to walk that fine line of, council's not involved in personnel directions, but we need to hold the manager accountable for personnel decisions that they make. And if they knew, then we have to take action. If they didn't know, then that county manager needs to, get their directors in order.
I also understand that the election consultant, the elections group, is now working directly hands-on with the election bureau. In fact, I'm thinking about taking a walk over there to see if I can meet them in person. Do you have any thoughts on Romilda's decision to hire the consultant and the consultant's work so far?
So I don't know about what they've done so far. I don't know too much about that, but I support the decision. I mean, we have people leaving left and right. We have a very inexperienced team over there, and after the problems with the last election, I think any help that we can get is beneficial. We need to learn how to run elections the right way to make sure there's no issues, no questions, because without trust in the election cycle, there's no trust in government.
Do you have any concerns about the upcoming November election with somebody who's being on the ballot?
I do not, no. I have full faith in what Romilda has done so far, and with the consultant. I think she's doing the voting machines for the public on Friday in the courthouse. I'm not concerned.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the vaccine proposal that Harry Haas put forth has been tabled. And so, what's your position on whether the county should be involved in requiring employees to be vaccinated or tested once a week if they are not getting the vaccine?
Yeah, I think Romilda came out and said she won't be doing that, and that's her decision. Once again, I think we're overstepping into the executive branch. And like recent proposals to council in the last 2 years, they're trying to make something political, and I honestly believe they're doing it to make some council members look bad. It has no fee. I don't support it.
You said political may make council members look bad.
Yes.
I think the last 2 years, no matter who you agree with, I don't think anyone would dispute the fact there's been more open disagreement, to put it politely, between certain council members, on maybe the minority, majority, generally speaking. Do you have any thoughts on that, or the level of civil discourse amongst council members?
Absolutely. And I think I wrote a letter to the editor on this maybe a year or so back. It's not even Democrat versus Republican. And, in the so-called majority, there's both parties. In the so-called minority, there's both parties. And right now it's anti-establishment conspiracy theories versus establishment. So I think some people on council ran on the theory that the government's corrupt, they're wrong, and they're going to fight that until the end, and they have been. They proposed amendments that go against the administration. They overstep what the council is supposed to do. And a lot of what they say and do is to prove that, they are anti-establishment. No matter what the county does, they don't support it. And I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's proven over the last 2 years that it's become more political, and I do not think county council is a political position. It's a financial position. We might have different financial ideologies, but that shouldn't be Democrat versus Republican or establishment versus anti-establishment.
I feel there should be, I know this comes up, I think, every time county council members are up for election, but I think there should be a change in the way members are elected. Should it be more of a more representation, like districting type thing? What's your position on that?
Yeah, I think I said this 4 years ago, just haven't gotten to it, but I do think there should be districts and then a couple at-large bids, because it gives everyone in the county a better say, and you see a lot of votes come up for Hazelton. There might be more than one Hazelton person on the board, and that sways votes. It does. People vote for their own town. So I support districting, and it's something that I would probably look towards implementing on my second term.
Speaking of it being a financial position, council has approved quite a few LERTAs and 1 or 2 KOZ's tax abatement bills. Off the top of my head, I can't recall one the council has rejected.
Yep.
Do you support, and I believe that you voted for all these yourself.
Yep.
Do you in general support the idea of giving tax abatements to people moving in and developing?
I do. So my theory on this is currently that land is undeveloped, untaxed. We're not getting anything from it. If we can bring in a Fortune 500 company, add jobs, these people come into the county, support local businesses, support local economy, adding jobs. I think it's 100% worth it. I don't see the opposition to it at all. I completely support it. Most of these people are using local labor, which I also support. So I don't see the downfall of it. Now if these companies do leave, we still have warehouses and taxable land compared to undeveloped, untaxed land. So, and it comes at the expense of a developer and not the county. So I fully support it and will continue to.
With the budget coming up here on Tuesday, the budget proposal, are there any circumstances under which you might support a property tax increase for next year?
I haven't looked at the numbers too much, but I can't. No, I think with COVID recently, and I'm confident that we have our financial house in order. The last 2 years, I believe we had a surplus, so I don't feel the need that we're going to have to raise taxes.
You talk fast.
I'm prepared, Eric,
I don't have any more questions on Eric.
Outside of county cares, which I know has been, your real passion, especially the last couple of years, what else would you say has been an accomplishment that you personally have achieved your first term?
Well, personally, I think I've become, and this is what my friends tell me, kind of like a youth leader in the community, whether it be showing people that I care, or, I've asked a couple of friends to sit on council meetings and they say, how do you do this? So I think they just see me as a leader locally, and it encourages them to help in the community. And like I mentioned, like shopping for the seniors during COVID. Now that's not anything council related, but I had 25 people under 40 willing to go out and shop for people. The vaccine program, we had 800 volunteers. We drove for 80 different vaccine shots. So I think it's proven that, you know, if I'm going to help people, there's a lot of other people willing to help. And I'm just proud of the outreach that I've done for people struggling with homelessness and substance use disorder. And I know that's part of County Cares, but for 2 years before it wasn't. And, you know, I get calls all the time looking like, will you write a job reference for me because they won't hire me because I was in rehab. And, you know, I do it, and people get jobs, get back on their feet, become a sustainable members of society. And I just want to continue to be a lifeline for people out there. And I hope I've proved how hard I work. I've had a job every day since I was 16 up at Penguin Publishing on a conveyor belt stack of boxes. So, and I work 60 hours a week at Keystone Automotive, been promoted 3 times in the last 4 years. And then on top of that, the council and these other initiatives that I take. So, you know, the people of this county work hard, and I just think they should have a council member that works just as hard as they do. And I hope I've proved that. So just to continue that, and you mentioned the chair possibility. I mean, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I would definitely pursue something like that if I had the time, and, you know, just continue to get the financial house in order.